Yeah, the Creating Futures conference started in 2003, and it was set up to try and bring people together from different fields with different ideas so we could try and develop some new solutions for old problems.
And we welcome you, and we hope you enjoy your day here in Yarra. And I hope the weather clears up for you, and that the day will turn out fine and the sun will shine more brightly. Thank you for listening.
We believe that the only way that we can get good health for our people, of which social and emotional wellbeing, mental health is a big part of, is for us to be able to control what happens in our community.
Conferences such as these are important because it shines a light on the issue of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander mental health, an issue that is often overlooked in discussions around Indigenous disadvantage in relation to some of the headline issues associated, often unfortunately, with Indigenous Australians in the media. Yet without addressing mental health as an issue in its own rights, efforts to improve life in many Indigenous communities, both urban and remote, are likely to come undone.
And I can see that there's a lot of community health leaders here from the conference, the speakers this morning, that there seems to be a future here to working on the health aspects of the community. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the presentation this morning, and it is really quite interesting in regarding to community control, because if you have control of your destiny and have the opportunities, then you can make positive things with having people control their affair and drive their agenda.
This morning, I thought the presentations were great. I really liked Mick Gooder's presentation with his 4 key themes for the 5 years that he has as Social Commissioner for human rights.
Wonderful place, wonderful conference, and going really well so far.
I've always been concerned that we continue to reinvent the wheel and that we see the solutions to some of these really big problems as just one more medical professional or one more medical service. Whereas what's driving the sort of problems that result in me seeing patients out in the communities are all of the social difficulties that people confront. There are high rates of social problems, and medical professionals and medical services aren't going to deal with that. So we need to think laterally about these issues, we need to be creative, and I believe we've got to think about entrepreneurial ways of addressing these matters.
GhostNets, yes, GhostNets is a huge problem across Northern Australia, and our particular area covers from the Torres Strait to the Kimberley, where it's an issue. The marriage of bringing external non-Indigenous artists that are sort of familiar with working with contemporary materials into the communities and marrying that with traditional skills and knowledge has just really blossomed into this whole art form.
So we set out to get people from mental health, from public health, and people who are involved in social and cultural areas, and we set out also to get people from overseas, because I think we need fresh ideas to think about the sorts of problems that we have here in Australia, particularly around Indigenous issues.
I had the artist turn it into something visual, make a storyboard. And I had a friend who was a movie maker. And I said, so how can we make this visual? It's got to be on computer, got to be on TV, it's got to be something to get their attention. So he took the images and took the recording of the story and input it into a movie editing program. And we took these static shots and we panned in and out of shots to give them movement. And we created these little videos.
So no matter whether you are, it's true, a small developing country and its people have to do something special to get noticed. Its offering has to be attractive, and such an attractiveness would then help harness the creativity and energy of the social enterprise sector in these countries. Now,
ultimately, I think our policy goal is to move our people along two axes. One being socio-economic development. We're very low on that axis. On the other axis is our determination to keep our culture. And on that axis, you might say that we're on the high side of that determination. Where do we go? What's our direction?
Approach the way in which we develop good recognition within schools and education systems for identifying kids that have got severe emotional disturbance and mental health problems and getting them into referral pathways. So we see it as an extension of what we do with Mind Matters and Kids Matters, and it's a very important way in which we connect up child and youth mental health services and also primary care with the education sector.
We really like to think that we should be looking at the whole person, their physical health, their surroundings, their education, the services, the whole everything that affects them, their family and friends, their social networks, and their sporting and other interests. And we really need to think that the first thing that happens is that we think about their mental health, not the last. So in that sense, we really, really need to think about raising awareness and education and all the other things I'm going to talk about.
What we've been looking at is looking very broadly at the entirety of rural and remote Australia in recognition of the fact that Australians in rural and remote Australia face very significant challenges to their mental health and well-being, due largely to the multiple and accelerating changes that are being experienced throughout rural and remote Australia.
Don't get stuck in boxes. If you've got challenging and lateral ideas, continue to push them. It's the lateral ideas that are going to make a difference. The last talks we've had have been about climate change. The same old ways aren't going to get us out of the mess we're in with climate change. We need lateral approaches. The same thing could be said for really changing the opportunities for disadvantaged people in Australia and around the world, that if we use the same old approaches, we'll get the same old results. So the take-home message is think different.